Philip Seymour Hoffman. Joining me now, psychotherapist Gaba and CNN entertainment commentator Krista Smith, who is also senior West Coast editor for Vanity Fair. Ladies, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Brooke. Krista, I want to begin with you because you are one of the last who have interviewed Philip Seymour Hoffman. Speaking of Sundance, just looking at the clip from many moons ago, you talked to him last month. So let me set this up. We'll play the clip. He's talking to you about a fan coming up to him.
Some young woman like sashayed up and she sat next to me. She said, my friends bet me that I couldn't get a selfie with you. And I was like, you're not.
The laughter and now the reality. Krista, how was he with you?
Oh, just watching all these clips, Brooke, it's so sad and so tragic. He was great. I mean, he came into our studio, he arrived a little early. He was a little exhausted from, climbing up the hill in that altitude in Utah, can be a little bit much. He was definitely heavier than I had seen him recently, but he seemed in good spirits. I kind of joked with him about comparing, the Sundance hysteria to the Hunger Games hysteria. He had a cigarette out on the balcony, and then he came and he sat down with us. And what you can see there in that clip is he was really game. I was asking silly questions about when the last time he took a selfie was, and he just in the moment came up and did that whole routine and had us in hysterics. Obviously, you can see for yourself, but he is just so tremendous of spirit. It's just such a tragic loss for anybody that knew him, or like you said, watched him or saw him in True West, or loved the Hunger Games, or loved Savages. I mean, his body of work is incredible, and he was so accessible.
I want to come back to you on his career, and I think it's fascinating too how he really puts himself in these roles. But Sherry, we've heard from, it's TMZ who's reporting that this man had been sober for 23 years. He had a relapse last year, and when you think about that, 20 plus years in recovery, and then here, shooting up, found in his apartment over the weekend. Do you see that often, that kind of relapse?
What I'm seeing is just so often there's so much despair and hopelessness and embarrassment. And so I'm not sure that he, was able to reach out to his community. Maybe he was, he entered work too quickly and just did not know how to get the help that he needed. We see it all the time, unfortunately. It's so sad, it's so heartbreaking. I was watching those interviews, and he appears to be such a sensitive, humble, grateful, loving, brilliant soul. And so often we see that with people that struggle with addiction, and so that sensitivity, made it possibly really difficult for him to reach out, and maybe he was just embarrassed and desperate and just did not know where to turn, and it's very sad.
We talk about his sensitivity, Krista. I mean, of course, Truman Capote, and we remember him in Boogie Nights. I remember him in Scent of a Woman with Chris O'Donnell many years ago. He had such a range.
Oh, it's incredible. He crossed all genres, and the incredible thing about Phil is that he could take the most despicable character and make you sympathize with them. And very, very few actors are able to do that. He really got underneath the skin and showed you the humanity and showed you, who they really were. And that you couldn't take your eyes off him on the screen, whether he had a big role or a little role. And I love the way he went in between everything. He was in a small independent movie. He had, years ago I interviewed him for his Jack Goes Boating. This was his directorial debut that started as a play at the Labyrinth Theater, that he then turned into a movie that was then at the festivals. And then he's in big movies like, Charlie Wilson's War and Mission Impossible, and now obviously the Hunger Games. And it's so sad. I don't want to judge him, and I don't want his memory to be about all these drugs. It just it is really just heartbreaking when you see it, because it never permeated his professional work. He always had a great work ethic. Every actor who ever worked with him wanted to work with him again. He was someone that directors sought. I cannot find one actor that didn't want to work with him. And when I interview all these younger kids that are coming up, they all would cite him as one of their role models and someone that they idolized and wanted that kind of career that he had.
Just the emails that keep coming in from these A-list, celebrities who knew him, who worked with him, who loved him. It is so heart-wrenching to hear about what has happened now to him. Krista Smith and Gaba, thank you both very, very much.